Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, we're going to focus on the impact of the climate crisis on employee benefits, employee expectations, and the rise of the green benefits. My awesome guest today is former Doctor Who actor Tom Baker. Wait, hang on a minute. He's partnership manager over at Octopus Electric Vehicles, the electric car specialists. Tom is a dedicated professional in the sustainability sector with over 4 years of experience at Octopus, specializing in the electrical vehicle industry and charging infrastructure. With a strong background in employee benefits and salary sacrifice schemes, Tom is passionate about sustainability and is committed to helping employees access the green benefits that they want and that drive meaningful environmental change. And I guess he's never been in Doctor Who. Tom, welcome to the show today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I actually think I am named after the Doctor Who. I think my parents loved that specific actor so much. Tom Baker is actually the reason for my name. So there is some linkage. There
we go. And you've got kind of similar hair.
I know, and I do wear a scarf in the winter months. It all starts to fit together.
Tom, beyond my reintroduction there, why don't you take a minute or two and tell the listeners a bit more about yourself and your career background?
Yeah, of course. So hello, everyone. I'm Tom Baker. I've been working at Octopus Electric Vehicles for, just over 4 years now, but not always in the remit of salary sacrifice and employee benefits, which is where I'm sort of focused at the moment. I first sort of started within a vehicle to grid project at Octopus Electric Vehicles, looking at how we can actually make electric vehicles be a source of battery storage for the home. So you can charge up your electric vehicle on renewable power when demand is low and then discharge it and actually power up your home. And we had a project on this called Power Loop, which was really, really cool. But as we sort of developed over time, that project came to a close and I sort of fell into the world of partnerships and specifically partnerships in terms of how we can find new businesses to introduce other businesses onto our electric vehicles salary sacrifice scheme. And then it slowly made me realize actually employers have such a task of trying to find their sustainable route. And really what my sort of aim is to help them understand that it's really easy to make the switch and they can look at their transport systems, they can look at how people are commuting, are people driving to work, do people want to switch out of a petrol or diesel car? And if the answer is yes, then there's a really obvious route to do that, and that's through sort of electric vehicles and salary sacrifice schemes which make it cheaper. So kind of got me really interested in it, and now here I am 4 years later, still in the job and still loving it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat Podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at hrgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
And also, out of normal work hours, you get to party at cool events like Disrupt HR Birmingham. So we were both there last week. We were both saying, listeners, before we hit record, that we were both in the same room, but I was on the stage for a lot of it. Tom was busy being crowded by people who just want to use all of Octopus's services. So we didn't actually get a chance to catch up. But it was a great event, and Octopus were kind enough to be a sponsor there. So thank you to you and your team.
No problem. It was a great event.
Interesting time for me. We've got a couple of cars at the house, like the standard family units. One of them is like Trigger's broom. I've just had an MOT and replaced a gazillion different parts. I feel like it's a 40% new car now. The other car, we're like, you know what? We're going to get rid of it. We just had an additional member of the team. We need something bigger. What are our options? And we're actually right now looking at leasing as an option, as it happens. An electric vehicle is an aspirational thing. I mean, it's perhaps less aspirational now than it was a few years ago. I think there's still some concepts around barriers to entry because of the cost of an electric vehicle compared to other vehicles, perhaps. But certainly it's where a lot of folks want to go, right? And part of what you guys do is to make that a reality. But maybe you can break it down for us a bit. Let's get a bit more basic. What is the impact of transport on the environment, Tom?
The impact of transport in terms of when we're looking at environmental impact, it actually accounts for, or it's the biggest emitting sector in the UK. So around 24% of all UK emissions are from the transport sector. And then if we look at sort of domestic transport, so that's what's actually in the UK right now, sort of back in 2022, it was reported around 99 million tons of carbon dioxide came from domestic transport alone. Now that includes things like domestic flights, lorries, trucks. So again, when we're talking then about electric vehicles and cars specifically, over half of that 99 million tons came from cars alone, which that might not mean much to many people who are listening. So it's always useful to visualize it. So that equates to 29 million return flights from London to New York. So the impact is massive in terms of actually what cars are putting out into the atmosphere. And so that's why it's such a key thing to change. And that's why it's such an important sector to actually address. And it's quite an easy one to address as well, because you just have to think, well, what else can I drive other than a petrol or diesel car? And then the natural sort of other option, unless you're a hydrogen fanatic, but the natural other option starts to become an electric vehicle in that space, or cycling, or public transport. They're all great too.
So part of my homework ahead of this interview today is I'm looking at some stats for the UK and also for the US, because we have a big audience in the US and Canada. So here are some good numbers for your listeners. In 2024, the projected revenue in the EV market in the UK is expected to reach $34 billion. This market segment is foreseen to display a compound annual growth rate of 8.5%, resulting in projected market value of around $51 billion by 2029. It is growing and growing and growing. What is the state of the EV market in the UK at the moment? Just give us a bit more around that.
Yeah, it's positive as it disregard sort of what sometimes we read in the news in this space. I think we can be wholly positive about kind of the pace at which EV adoption is coming about. And we actually hit our 1 millionth electric vehicle on the road in 2024. We're now at sort of around 1.16 million electric vehicles on the road. And I always laugh when we sort of talk about it still in an early adoption route. I'd say if we've got that many on the road, we're probably past the early adoption route and probably now in full swing of adoption, especially. And it's a bit of a social kind of transition rather than a technical one in that space. And that's because we have nearly 100 different models now in terms of EVs. And I know you mentioned earlier on about that price factor being a bit of a blocker, but we're getting really affordable EVs now coming into the market. From Build Your Dreams, BYD, or Dacia Spring coming out, which I think is now the most affordable, 2024. There's loads of options out there. And then another kind of blocker which you spoke about or we're referring to was kind of the charging infrastructure, always, which sort of poses a question whether people want to adopt EVs. We've now got 83,000 charger points in the UK, which is way more than the service stations which you find for petrol or diesel equivalents. So it goes to that question around, what's the status of EV uptake? There's thousands of chargers out there. There's actually over 1 million electric vehicles on the road. We saw 26,000 fully electric vehicles sold in July 2024 alone. So it's really, really growing. It takes up 19% of the total market share in new car registrations. There's so many stats out there which can highlight actually EV uptake is happening. And it's important that we sort of keep up with it. We can be really positive, I think, about it. And I think we should look to the future to actually see how we can make it better.
This episode of the HR Chat podcast is supported by My Staff Shop, the UK's only employee-owned employee benefit provider. We provide a range of competitive and flexible employee benefit solutions to help you improve your employee value proposition, from exclusive deals and discounts to help your people stretch their salaries, to effective reward and recognition programs, and a comprehensive health and well-being offering. We pride ourselves on our friendly and collaborative way of working, putting the interest of our clients at the heart of everything we do. Learn more at mystaffshop.com. Thanks, and now back to the HR Chat Show.
So what impact does the climate crisis have on employee benefits then? I guess as part of your answer there, what are you seeing in terms of how companies are switching their focus on the benefits that are offered to make sure that they are more environmentally friendly?
Yeah, it's I think I think we can all experience the climate crisis in various ways, and we all want to do our bit to make a change, whether that's just at home recycling and being more conscientious about what you're throwing away, whether that's now the sort of clothing trends of upcycling clothes or upholstering furniture, all that kind of stuff is a personal way which we're making a difference. And I think as an individual, you start to think, well, what else can I do? And actually, sometimes you look to your employer for support in that regards. And so what we're starting to see is employees want to be part of a company that is climate conscious. And that could either be having little signs on the light switches or turn the light off, or, making sure that everything's recycled paper in their office and all that kind of good stuff in terms of, what you're getting out of it, or, I guess nature friendly soaps in the bathrooms, all that kind of stuff. But also they want us to go a step further, on this side. And not we, but Kite Research is a really, really great company. They found that 83% of people who they surveyed actually wanted to take action on climate change in their jobs. And this doesn't necessarily mean the actual product or the end goal is, addressing the climate crisis. This is more that their company is giving them climate literacy or understanding what they're doing, or actually they feel active in their role. And so this is where the point around employee benefits really come into play, because providing employees a benefit which allows them to make a sustainably conscious choice naturally opens up that avenue. And we all know retention is hard in this day and age. We all know that we want to attract and keep the best talent, and actually more and more employees are only wanting to stay at a company should they actually have climate sort of conscious benefits included in their package. And we've done a bunch of work internally through a sustainable workforce report on this, where we kind of asked 500 UK HR managers about kind of what the role of employee benefits does at their organizations. And we looked at then 2,000 UK employees to say, what do you think in this side? And actually 70% of the employees expected their employer or potential employer to be proactively working towards clear environmental, social governance goals. And this would be a deciding factor to their employment or retention. So in terms of the impact it's making on green benefits, it's kind of becoming that, when you talk about core benefits or PMI, private medical insurance, or pensions or anything around that, green benefits is sliding in as a bit of an expectation. And I wouldn't be surprised in the next sort of 1, 2, 3 years that green benefits become a core benefit as well. We're already seeing it with pensions, right? Pensions are looking to be green pensions instead. And that's a really, really sort of big choice and a big option which employers can do. So it's making a big impact, largely because employees are demanding it, which I think is one of the cool factors.
So how does that feed into the conversations that you have with, you mentioned HR managers earlier on then? Are you finding that a lot of the conversations that you guys are having are through inbound inquiries, because HR leaders are like, well, we've got to get on this. This is expected of us. It's not a good reflection of our employer brand if we're not offering these green options.
100%, yeah. And I think also it's about it's a really tricky job in the HR space, because you have to balance so many requests, because you might also have some who don't are looking much more. We want financial supporting, we want healthcare supporting, we want wellbeing supporting, we want environmental supporting, and it's actually right. Well, this is all a massive breadth of how do I balance all these requests in one space. But you're exactly right. They will come and reach out to us, and they will ask us the question around kind of what do you do, or what can you do to make our benefits package green? What is the offering which you have to make that impact? And being at Octopus Electric Vehicles, being a leasing company at its heart and offering salary sacrifice for fully electric vehicles, it's a really easy navigatable conversation, because not only are we hitting that environmental focus of offering a sustainable transport solution, salary sacrifice at its heart is also a financially attractive sort of a benefit to add into that remit as well. So we kind of get it in twofold why HR managers or chiefs of staff or finance directors as well might be coming towards us to ask us the question of, what can Octopus Electric Vehicles do to support? And, we're here to help them find the right EV salary sacrifice scheme for their business on that side of things too. So yeah, but then also we do outreach. We actually sort of go to events, and people then see us and they'll come have a chat with us. Even at Disrupt HR, for example, that kind of aspect as well. People will then come and have a chat with us, and we'll talk about what we do, and they might go, didn't even realize you did this. That's really cool. We've been looking at a way to green our benefits or provide another option. But I think the other side to look at it is, while employees might be requesting it from their business, a business might have certain certifications they're going after, or might be going after a certain tender, or might be going after that B Corp status they've been wanting. There's a lot of pressure now to sort of have these certifications attached to you. And choosing green benefits or offering green benefits can actually play a big role in that space as well. So, the regulations, the certifications and things like that also drive people to look at sort of green benefits and what they can offer to hit those net zero targets, which they might be aiming for.
Actually, before I ask you my next question, just a shout out to the Disrupt HR Birmingham team, Verity and Jamie and David and all of the awesome speakers. What an amazing event. Anyway, okay, continuing through. You mentioned salary sacrifice at the moment. So obviously an employee can lower their income tax liability by reducing their gross salary. But what are some of those tax benefits? Can you sort of spell that out for us?
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of twofold in this regard. I mean, so you've got for an employee, they essentially make tax savings on a product which they're getting from their business. So it's always a business will sign up with a company, in this case, Octopus Electric Vehicles, and then they'll offer it out to their employees as an employee benefit. And essentially, it's always for a non-cash good, and in this case, it would be an electric vehicle. And when we're looking at this, the non-cash good basically goes off their gross salary, and as the sort of the I guess the cost of it's coming off their gross salary, it lowers their gross salary and means they can start to make tax savings depending on which bracket they're in. So you can make 20, 30, 40, even 50, 60%, depending if you're in that sort of sweet spot of 100 to 135k% off the cost of driving electric. So that affordability piece we spoke about earlier, salary sacrifice opens the doors up for a lot of individuals because it does reduce that cost of driving electric or the cost of the lease in that side through the tax savings they make. And I think the other really important thing to note here is salary sacrifice isn't only for EVs, but the reason why it is so preferential or preferred or such a booming industry for electric vehicles is largely because the benefit in kind rate, which is what's called the company car tax, and you might be more familiar with that, is so low for electric vehicles at the moment in comparison to your hybrids, to your petrols, to your diesels, which means you're not outweighing this tax savings you're making by a high company car tax, a high benefit in kind. It's currently just at 2% right now and just incrementally growing by 1% up to 2028. Sorry. So, it's so low right now. And that's why EV salary sacrifice is so popular at the moment.
Tom, you're not going to believe this. We are running out of time, unless you do have a TARDIS kicking about there somewhere. We've got to work with what we've got. And so I'm going to challenge you to answer the next question in 60 seconds or less.
Gosh.
When we're putting this script together today, this lovely term jumped out at me, climate job.
Yes.
So here's the question, and I want you to answer in 60 seconds or less. Why do we need to make every job a climate job in the UK?
I have to admit, stole it from Kite Research's approach, and I thought it was brilliant. And it's largely because I think now everyone wants to do their bit for the environment, but people don't know necessarily how. And so what we need to do is give them the tools to make sure that they're making a change in the environment and that actually we're making a greener, fairer future moving forward. So that's why we need to make every job a climate job, and green benefits is a way to do that.
Oh, you had like 30 seconds to spare. I should have challenged you. I should have been harsher. Okay, and just finally for today, how can we connect with you? So is that LinkedIn? Do you want to share your email, etc.? And also, of course, how can folks learn more about Octopus EV?
You can hop on our website, octopusev.com, octopuselectricvehicles.com, and you'll see all the different cool things that we do in terms of the electric vehicle space. You can add me on LinkedIn, Tom Baker, Partnerships Manager at Octopus Electric Vehicles, and I'm happy to have a conversation around how we can support your businesses, or if you want to partner with us to help your clients. Any of the above is great. But yeah, it's really just sort of check out what Octopus Energy are doing, check out what Octopus Electric Vehicles are doing, and we'll be able to help you find sort of a sustainable future for you.
Excellent. And there will, of course, listeners, as always, be links in the show notes. That just leaves me to say for today, Tom Baker, thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me on.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.